A problem you might face as a video creator is that you can't always plan a video ahead of time. Often you just don't know what the story's gonna be. Especially with vlogs, you might know the general topic, but the rest is up in the air. And that was me this year. I spent about 3 months filming my first wildlife journey, mainly hunting for snake shots. And as you can imagine, that's not precisely something you can plan. After filming all those trips, I ended up with hundreds of clips scattered across dozens of folders, pure chaos, but the footage was good, so I knew I had to make something out of it. And I think the end result is very watchable. So in this video, I will show you step by step how I turned that mess into a story people enjoy watching. You will learn how to inventory what you have, group it into events, shape a structure, write the script, fill the gaps, and finish it up. Let's get into it. The first thing I want to tell you is to stop hesitating before you press record. You might hesitate because you don't know what it's for, and you might fall into the trap of thinking every day you go out has to become one video. If that's you, don't worry, just start shooting, because you won't find a good story every day, but if you stick with a thing long enough, it either shows up or you have footage you can use in other videos. And even if you're not sure what to film and it feels pointless, remember you can tie it together to an actual story later with voiceovers, talking head, and some extra B-roll. So film whatever you can get in front of your camera that might be useful later, because it is. And let me show you how to handle that. So the way I see it when a story doesn't pop up right away is that after filming for a while, you will notice a point where a story might exist. Usually that's when you hit a real climax and an outcome you could end the video with. For example, we struggled for quite some time to find snakes or any compelling wildlife, but then we got lucky. We found a golden tree snake while it was eating a monitor lizard. You can't ask for a better payoff, and that's when I knew there was a story or the end of it, because that's a perfect outcome for a snake-focused mission and a great climax after all the struggles we had in between. And while we were out shooting, I also took some quick notes of small findings and thoughts. For example, early on, I tend to keep my aperture too wide open, what meant that my shots didn't turn out sharp, because I got quite close to reptiles with long focal lengths, and it turned out that's a problem. So taking notes of issues you have or whatever comes in your way while shooting is quite good, because you can use that later for the story, or not if it doesn't fit. Anyway, we looked for snakes, struggled, and then got an insane shot. Is still surface level. You want a theme that makes the video universal, so people who don't care about wildlife or photography can still connect. So I took a time one day to think about it and came up with the theme that patience feels like a waste of time and curiosity looks dumb until they don't. This is crucial because you don't just want to list events in your video, you want to connect them to something bigger. Okay, so that's the rough idea. We have the climax and also the theme of the video, but now we have to put it into practice. To do so, you first should make an inventory, an unsorted list of what you captured. That mustn't be every single shot. Instead, you can of course group them by day, event, or shoot, and that's what you should usually do already when you copy the footage to your hard drive by sorting them in folders. So inventory means you're essentially just listing folder names or the descriptions. In the past, I loved using Mac notes for that. These handwritten sticky notes here you can slap anywhere, super cool. But if you're mobile and working from cafes a lot, that's not ideal. That's where today's sponsor comes in, Millernote. Now, I've used a lot of note-taking apps over time, and for most videos I want database features for organization, but here I needed creative freedom, and that's exactly what Millernote does best, or better than other apps. It gives you a blank canvas with a subtle grid, and you can organize with columns you can drag around, and that's great because I like structure, but I also need the freedom to shuffle things from scattered inventory to a real outline. So I started with an empty board that do have templates, but I went black for this project because it just fits better. And for each folder of footage, I created a column with a descriptive title, the folder, and the cameras I used, plus some notes where necessary. I also added still frames so I could see at a glance what each column was about. And then I realized that some footage is story critical and some is better as supporting inserts to fill gaps. So I colored story colors columns yellow and supporting columns blue, and also pre-sorted them so that I had a clear distinction between what's story and what's supporting footage. This matters because if you throw everything into the timeline, it gets too long and boring. That's why you want to have story footage to carry the narrative and dip into supporting footage as needed, even if it's not from the exact moment you're talking about. That's also where documentaries often bend reality a tiny bit to keep things watchable. So I think you can already see why Milanote works pretty good for videos like that. And the best thing is that you can try it out for free. I will leave a link in the description below so you can check it out there. But let's continue with building the story structure. There you will also see a bit more about Milanote. Now, I had a clear overview and a theme, so it was time to shape the arc, the story arc. Milanote helped again. I created a new row of columns under the inventory and outlined each part step by step. For YouTube documentaries like this one, the hero's journey is a story framework that often works well, so this is what I used here. That basically means that the hero, or me in that case, has a desire. We make the audience care about that. He then goes on a mission, hits hurdles and setbacks, and finally reaches a goal, ending with a learning or change. So here's how it works for my story. In part 1, I had lost excitement about general travel filmmaking and wanted a new challenge, wildlife. Then in part 2, to make you care, I shared my fascination with snakes, a bit dangerous but not that much if you know a bit about them, and they're actually findable if you go to the right places at the right times. But then in part 3, reality hits. We don't find much, frustration builds up, but I introduce a small win, getting a shot of a snake spying at us to keep the tension alive, which is important because you need those ups and downs, otherwise it becomes boring for the viewer. And by the way, you don't have to keep the order of the events in the same way as they happen naturally. If it makes your video more interesting, you can totally turn around or also leave certain events out so that the ups and downs keep the viewer watching, that it's interesting to watch. Because if you just try to edit it chronologically, it oftentimes doesn't work out because certain events just don't happen so that it fits well, right? Anyway, then in part 4, we have a near give up moment, a night search, a snake 3 meters up in a tree while I'm trying to manage the camera angle, light and focus at the same time while getting obliterated by mosquitoes. It's actually an important moment because it showed my struggle so much, so I asked my friend Michael there to film that, because I knew in this situation that not the snake is important, but my struggle. Those are the times where you hate filming yourself, but you have to film because those moments are super important for the story. In part 5, I went a bit deeper into more photography related struggles, such as the open aperture issue I had to connect more with the main theme of my channel, be a bit educational and also open a loop to come back to later when I get the shot of the snake eating the lizard, what leads us to the turning point of the story and the next day. Part 6 is the next day. As we're literally leaving the hotel, Michael, out of curiosity, checks behind the toilet building and spots a golden tree snake eating a monitor lizard. Dream scenario, that's the climax and resolution right there, because that's probably a once in a lifetime shot. So that's where the story on the surface level ends, but we have to go deeper for the theme for it to feel right, what leads us to part 7, the reflection. There I tied it back to the theme to be honest about what didn't work, why the struggles before have been necessary, and that patience and curiosity always pay off if you give them time. So outlining before writing a script is actually huge. You see the structure, the content of each part, the emotions you want, and any notes, so writing becomes simple instead of overwhelming. Milanote also made that quite nice because you can drag duplicates of the footage columns under each story beat, so you know exactly what footage to take for which part of the story. To do so, just hold Option while dragging to duplicate. It's better to do it like that because you oftentimes have to reuse footage across the video. Next step was writing a script. I won't go super deep here, but I feel like Milanote's column layout made it easier than usual. Under each story part, I added a script column, and I found that the tighter space for each column keeps you focused on what that part of the video needs to do, because you really focus on one part at the time. Like in other note-taking apps, I usually have the outline on the left in one window and the script on the right, and it feels less focused to me, while that column layout in Milanote definitely felt easier, and I actually finished writing the script quicker than usual, which was quite surprising. I guess it is maybe because I have a little bit less width there, so I really focus on just this single part. So it feels a bit less overwhelming. It feels like I have to write less for each part of the script, and then I tend to procrastinate a bit less and just keep writing and writing instead of thinking too much. I do have 2 quick tips for script writing here though that also helped me. At first, use speech to text, so you write how you speak. It's faster and sounds natural. I wanted the video to feel like a documentary, so the script had to feel spoken. And I found that it works best if you dictate into ChatGPT's message box and copy it into Millernote or any other note-taking app, because ChatGPT's voice recognition is much better than the internal one in macOS and basically free. But don't use ChatGPT to write the whole script for you. You can use it to fix grammar and clarity, that's where it shines, but you want it to be authentic. So that's how I wrote the script, but I did notice that I still needed a few more shots to tell the story, especially for the intro. So I added a shot list column under each script column to create a shot list for every part of the video. To make that even better, I turned the script paragraphs into a numbered list to reference those numbers in the shot list, because this way you will always know which shot belongs to which line. I have to say though that I do prefer to-do list apps or databases for this part, because it's a bit quicker to use on the go and to check everything off. And then I went out, grabbed the missing shots, recorded the A-roll at home, which I also used as voiceover, and jumped right into the edit. And editing was super easy from there, because the edit was essentially done already in Millernote. You just drop the A-roll into the timeline or use something like Gling AI to trim it down quickly. And because I mapped my footage column to story columns before in Millernote, I always knew which folder to open for which part. So I just had to drag the B-roll shots on top, make sure to choose good music and add some sound effects, and it was done. So as you can see, turning even relatively random footage without having a clear plan or even knowing the story before into a great video is actually not that hard. You just have to give it a bit of time until a potential end of a story shows up, plan everything from there and fill the gaps with talking head or voiceovers and add extra footage. Of course, from inventory to final edit might take a few days, but there's nothing to worry about. And I found that this process is quite fun, as you can just go out and film whatever interests you, build the story after the fact and go straight into the edit. So I would say it's time to try it out for yourself. And big thanks to Millernote again for sponsoring this video. If you want to use the same process for your videos, you can start with Millernote for free and only upgrade once you hit the objects limit. The link again is in the description below. And if you want to go deeper into filmmaking, editing and color grading, check out my online academy, Learn with Pascal. We're running our Black Friday sale currently at 40% off. And if you want to see the final wildlife video, it's right here in the corner. It's a great watch. Unless you're scared of snakes, then maybe don't.